Hello everyone, and welcome to another beer review. Now the good thing today is, it's a Sunday video, so it's going to be a beer that's going to be of a decent quality and less ambiguous than some of the ones that are reviewed in the Wednesday videos. But anyway, and the beer we've got today again was kindly donated by John Morris. It seems to be a regular thing that John Morris is donating beers to the channel, which again is very much appreciated, and I'm very lucky about that. But I will also say that there is downsides to John Morris. He likes to dress up in lycra at the weekend, and sometimes he even goes out on a bike. But anyway, yes, he's one of those, yes. One of these ones where you basically get stuck behind his arsehole kicking at you, in some country lane that won't move over to let you past, so you end up calling every name under the sun. He's one of those, yeah. But today we have a best bitter from Longmans Brewery. Now Longmans Brewery, it's East Sussex, I think it's in the South Downs. It's a fairly young brewery, but it's had some good reviews, and I think their beers have won a few awards as well. But it's had some good reviews in the past and things like this, and they've got a decent name for themselves. Now, there's a wee bit of spill in the back. It's 4%, it's 500ml. I don't know the price because I never bought it. It was a kind donation, like I said. But I'll put the details down below from what price they're charging on their website. The best bitter is perfectly balanced with a complex bittersweet malty taste, fragrant hops, and a characteristic long deep finish. A traditional Sussex style best bitter. Ingredients: water, malted barley, malted wheat, hops, yeast, allergens, and bold. So apparently it's amber bronze in colour. The aroma is fruity, malty, spicy, and the taste is full, hoppy, dry finish. And it gets 2 sugar cubes out of 5 for sweetness, and it gets 3 hops out of 5 for bitterness. There you go. Now, I think it's Church Farm Brewery is basically their brewery, and if I remember rightly, they grow their own barley, if I remember rightly, on the farm. So they do, and they don't use hop pellets. As far as I know, they actually use loose leaf hops rather than the hop pellets. So shall we crack it open and see what it's like? Hopefully this will be a good one, but like I've said in the past, I've been kind of disappointed with bitters, because the problem is you get excited about it and then you taste it and it's not really a bitter at all. It's just a kind of hyped up amber ale, and it hasn't really got any bitterness at the back end and things like that. It's just, lacking. And I just find that quite disappointing. So I'm not going to get too excited about this. I'm just going to hold back a bit and see where we are. But let's get it poured and see what we've got. It's quite good actually. Today I managed to actually go and get the glasses and they're all there. That's amazing, that. The wife's away at the moment. She's away in Napoli. So she is. As at the time of recording. She'll be back by the time this is actually put out to use lot. But yes, she's away with the youngest boy to Napoli. So she is. Via Pisa. Don't ask. Long story. But it's great how basically she goes away and then suddenly I can find everything when she's away. When she comes back, that'll soon change. I'm sure she'll purposely just move things about just to annoy me. All right, he knows what that is. He was looking for that the other day. I'll make him search harder for it. That type of thing. She keeps me on my toes. Well, I always have my toes on unboxing, dodging them even. Anyway, It's an easy one finger head. It's got a nice kind of chestnut colour. Chestnut colour. Jesus, doing well with the teeth today, aren't I? And yeah. Now, what did they say? They said the aroma is fruity, malty, spicy. I used to have a girlfriend that kind of had a similar description. Unfortunately, the fruitiness was to do with her flatulence. Anyway, wait a minute, so was it spicy. Anyway, let's see what it smells like. You get a little bit of kind of dried fruit, very light hint. Maybe there's a light hoppiness there. There's a bit of malt, there's a bit of caramel there. You are getting a little bit of kind of dried fruit. A little bit of hoppiness there as well. Would they constitute that as spiciness? I don't know. Not really getting too much of a spice notes. That was a good whistle, wasn't it? Spice notes. Quite good, doesn't it? Super. Superfluous. But yeah, there is a wee bit of kind of a hoppiness there that could kind of be construed as the spiciness. But yeah, the malt's there and a little bit of dried fruit, but the dried fruit's quite light, it's not over the top. Right, so we'll see what it tastes like. Well, I'm happy. There's a nice malt there, nice bit of malt there. There is some nice hot flavours there. But there's also a bit of bitterness at the back end, which is quite nice to have. I've not been having that too often. And overall, the flavours are actually quite clean, quite nice. I'm not going to say there's lots of flavours and it's packed full of flavours, because it isn't. But they've got the flavours that are there. They've got a nice intensity. They've got a nice clarity, I would say. And I think that helps with intensity. So there isn't too many flavours to kind of muddy the waters. And overall, it's just a nice, tasting, honest beer. The initial impressions. We'll soon see what happens once I get acclimatised to it. But yeah, actually it's quite nice. Looks quite nice. Tastes quite nice. Absolutely. A little bit of nuttiness is there as well. Just a little bit of nuttiness. Which they didn't mention that. They said full hoppy dry. What the hell? It was full. It tastes full. What does that mean? I don't really know that type of stuff, but it sounds kind of professional. You know, so we'll shove it in the bottle. It's fabulous. Aye. Taste full. Hoppy. Taste dry finish. What does that mean? It means it doesn't linger. And there's a bit of acidity there. No. Just again, just put it on there to look professional. You know, kind of pretend that you know what we're doing. You know. Excuse me. But yeah. So yeah, as I was saying, the likes of way to Napoli and that. So I've been running about a lot of times. Well, most of the time, just in underwear. It's great, absolutely brilliant. A lot of scratching, just as and when I need to. You know, if I need to break wind, then I don't have to kind of look around to see if somebody's within arm's reach, and I just let it go. It's wonderful. It's fabulous. What else have we doing? I took straight advantage of been breaking through a knicker drawer again, swapping out the ones that I'm wearing for a pair of fresh ones, you know. Lovely. And just generally causing havoc. What I have been doing as well is I've been making compote. I have made compote for a while. I wonder what the wife will think of that. Now, compote isn't the same as what we call compote in kind of Western Europe. Compote, this style of compote, is more kind of Eastern European, where basically you boil fruit you know, if you've got excess fruit, because a lot of Eastern Europeans grow a lot of fruit trees and things like that in their garden, especially if they've got dachas and things like that. And there's always an excess that you can't eat and you can't kind of preserve and things like that. So one of the things that they do in the summer is they like to boil it off a lot of the kind of excess fruit, like apples, plums, apricots, all these type of things. And you boil them off. Some add sugar, but the traditional way is not to add any sugar. Just use the sweetness of the actual fruits themselves. But they've got to be really well ripe. You know, they can't be just ripe. You know, ripe. They've got to be kind of not going bad, but they've got to be, you know, really ripe. So there's got to be a bit of softness to them and things like that. Which again, they're the ones that you're going to boil up to make compote, and not the ones that you're going to use to eat or preserve and things like that. The ones that are just maybe kind of past the eating stage. And yeah, absolutely brilliant. Boil this up, usually in a ratio of 4:1. So 1 fruit to 4 water, and you can work that out yourself. And yeah, you put it in, everything in cold, bring it up to the boil for roughly about 5-10 minutes, and then let it cool with the fruit in there. Then everything gets extracted, and yeah, you've got a really nice summer's drink that you can then put in the fridge, chill, and enjoy whenever you want. And it's actually quite good fun, and it's a great way of utilising fruit that normally we would probably throw away, just because we think, well, it's kind of past the eating stage and things like that. Unless you're going to maybe try and use it to kind of make a, again, it depends what type of fruit it is, but you might be going to try and make a pie filling with it or something like that. But if you're not really into that, it's a very quick and easy way of utilising up fruit that's going to pass its best. So that's what I've been doing. So about a kilogram of fruit, I got about 3.5 litres, so it's quite good. I did obviously put, kind of 4 litres in, but you get a bit of loss with the evaporation, and there's also a bit of loss just because, you don't squeeze the fruit afterwards, because again, it just makes it more, you have to filter out. I mean, some people filter it quite heavily, some people don't, because they're just like the juicy bits floating about it. Again, it's your own personal choice. What I'd like to do at one point is make some compote and ferment it and see what happens. I haven't done that yet. I've always meant to do it. So again, I'm planning a weekend of summer of trials and tribulations in the brewing front, so I might give that a go. I know I want to do, I think I've mentioned previously in a previous video that I wanted to do one with, do a couple of beers, but instead of using water to top up, is use homemade barley water from just straight kind of pearl barley, that type of thing. And something like this, maybe do some compote and then brew it afterwards, ferment it and see what we get. Probably get something quite dry, probably, but I think it's a case as well. I think it could be quite good fun. But yeah, it's a good wee tip. So I was doing that today, and it was quite good fun. I quite enjoyed that. It's actually quite a nice beer. This actually really quite nice. So I'm enjoying it. I like that little bit of nuttiness at the back end. What I would say is the bitterness kind of died down a bit. It's not as bitter at the back end as it was with the first sip. So first impressions, yeah, because again, your mouth hasn't been acclimatised to it, so that bitterness is a bit stronger at the back end. Well, it's kind of died away now as we've become more acclimatised to the flavours. And that's another reason, as I keep saying, you've got to keep drinking it. You can't just take little sips. If you're going to review a beer, you've got to get really torn into it to really give it a chance to kind of develop on you and see where it takes you. And I just don't understand why people just take a single sip and then basically wax lyrical how wonderful it is. And, it's not like that. Nice mouthfeel, easy drinking, as you can see. And a quite good thing is, they gave us a few bottles of this. So the good thing is, after this, I can enjoy some more. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Although I might keep it and do a little kind of, how would you say, maybe a comparison video, because I've got some other beers there as well. do some comparisons and see how they go. That could be quite interesting. That sounds like a plan. Sounds like a plan. But yeah, I think this brewery, was it 2012? I think it was started. I think it started producing beer in 2012. I think the whole idea they were kind of preparing, getting ready and everything else in 2011, but I think they officially started kind of brewing beer in 2012. And like I said, they've built up not a bad reputation in quite a short time. Again, because they're down, they're more down the kind of traditional route with their kind of beer choices and everything else, and with their kind of recipes and things like that. I think they appreciate the importance of good ingredients, and I think they also appreciate that traditional beer done properly is some of the best beer in the world, and especially good traditional styles of English ales, and I think that has helped them. The thing though is the cases where I think they're kind of limited with their volumes and things like that. I'm surprised they're not maybe in the supermarkets, but I think maybe it's a good thing that they're not. But overall, it's a nice beer. Shall we break down these flavours? Okay. Start off, we get a nice bit of malt. So you do. Not a lot of malt, not it's bags of malt, but just a nice level of malt. A little bit of grain and a little bit of sweetness. And I would say that the sweetness is a little bit more at the front of the mouth than it is onto the mid-tongue and at the back end. It's a slight dying down, which helps because it helps to kind of open up the other flavours a bit more, especially when you're getting around about the kind of dry fruit kind of flavours, when there is some little accents of dry fruit. But at the front of the mouth, you get a nice kind of level of malt. And yeah, it's kind of slightly dark caramel. Not maybe bordering into a little bit of toffee notes, but mostly it's kind of a dark caramel, which is nice. It's fine. And yeah, a nice little bit of grain there as well, nice clean grain kind of flavours. And they go well with the malt, and that sweetness at the front end again all kind of goes well. So there's a kind of a trifecta. Well, here's a big word. What does it mean? Don't know. Anyway, there's a trifecta of flavours there, and they all seem to be feeling, they're connected. They don't feel as if something's been added that's extra or things like that, or it feels like it's not, it's kind of disconnected and disjointed. No, they all feel as if like they're all kind of part of the same kind of recipe, and they're all kind of working together. Moves on to the mid-tongue. Like I said, the sweetness just slightly dies down a bit, which is quite good because it kind of opens up the kind of floor for some of the other flavours coming across. You've still got the malt, it kind of stays at a similar level, same with the grain, which I think also helps to provide a little bit of nuttiness near the back end, because it does kind of slightly develop and change a little bit, and it just gives you little nutty tones at the back end, which is quite nice. But what you're also getting is just little kind of light accents of dried fruit, but they're not adding any sweetness, they're just adding that kind of little kind of dried fruit kind of flavour accent without the sweetness being kind of built up. And you're also getting the kind of little bit of hoppiness there, and you're getting little hoppy kind of flavours kind of backed up with just little accents of bitterness, just little ones. And as it moves basically to the back of the tongue, you get a little bit of nuttiness, and the kind of bitterness accents kind of start to kind of join together and just give a little bit more bitterness. Like I said, there was more bitterness at the back end initially when I had the first couple of sips, but it has died down, and since I've got acclimatised to it, it's not as bitter now. But there's still an okay level of bitterness. I would have probably liked a bit more, maybe because I prefer more bitterness at the back end, but there's enough there not to disappoint me, but I would have preferred a little bit more. But overall, there's a nice balance, and what they call a dry finish, it's quite a quick, all the kind of flavours kind of dissipate at the same time, so you've got a little bit of bitterness, a little bit of nuttiness, a little bit of grain, a little bit of malt. They all kind of dissipate together and nothing kind of lingers. So yes, it's quite a clean, I would probably put it down as a clean finish, not so much of a dry finish. A dry finish usually has to have a little kind of, you know, a slightly change in acidity at the back end to give it that kind of dryness, because that's really what it is. That dryness is really where, you know, the slight rise in acidity levels, just ever so slightly, that just gives you that kind of dryness at the back end like you would get from a wine. And I wouldn't say it's really got a dryness, I would say it's more of a clean finish, because I don't really feel the kind of dryness. But I think everybody's outlooks are always different, and what they see and what I see are usually quite different. But overall, it's a nice beer, nicely balanced, easy drinking. Proof of the pudding, you know, you're seeing it. You know, if I was sitting in a pub, I'd be drinking it the same way. If I'm sitting around your house, well, the first thing you think, what the fuck are you doing here? Get out. And secondly, this isn't my fucking beer, you know. Yeah. But anyway, if I was around your house, I'd be drinking it the exact same way. But like you say, you'd probably wonder what the hell I'm doing there, and you'd probably be screaming at me to get out. And as I would be leaving, I would be saying, give it 10 minutes in the bathroom. And not everything that looks like toothpaste is like toothpaste. Anyway, but yeah, it's a nice beer. I quite like it. So I do. So what would I give this out of 10? There's a question. Oh, right. Well, the good thing is, I'm free from the shackles of pricing and deliveries and everything else, because like I said, I got this gifted to me by John Morris, and yeah. So I don't have any restrictions or anything like that about price or how much it's costing. So, because right now I don't know how much it costs. It's one of these strange ones. If somebody gives you a gift, it's really kind of classed as a kind of bad show to kind of look at the price of it. It's kind of a bit ignorant. Whereas I've got to over this. So normally I wouldn't. But for editing this video and doing the beer fact, I'm going to actually have to look it up. So I just thought of that, and I'm thinking, well, just in case if John's watching, I'm not doing it to be ignorant of things that way much he spend on me, you know. I'm doing it because I want to pass on accurate information rather than putting a load of willy piss, you know, and the beer fact. So yeah, so don't look at it as any judgment on yourselves. It's still, no matter what it costs, how cheap or how expensive it's all very much appreciated. So yeah, out of 10, what would I give it? I actually really quite like this. It really is easy drinking. Nice lively beer. And yeah, I need to try and stop drinking it so I've got something kind of hold up at the end. No, it's just a nice honest beer with nice clarity, like I said, of the flavours. And there's not too many flavours to make it overly complicated. It's nice, easy drinking, refreshing. It just ticks all the boxes that it should be. I can always turn around and say, well, for my taste, I'd like a little bit more of this and a little bit of that or whatever. But at the end of the day, would it stop me from buying it? No. Would it stop me from drinking it? No. Would it stop me from recommending it? No. So does it really matter? I mean, we're all looking for a perfect beer and things like that, and well, sometimes just getting close is good enough. So I'm kind of toying here. I'm toying between kind of 7.5 and an 8. In some aspects, I feel it could get an 8, and in some aspects, I feel 7.5 would be closer because, like I said, it's kind of slightly lacking in that bitterness that I would want. Just out of personal preference and things like that. So I'm going to be fair with it. I'm going to give it I'm going to give it an 8. Because for me, it's fairly close to an 8. Yeah, there's some things that I would like to have a little bit more of, but that's my own kind of personal thing. But overall, I think, put my kind of personal kind of taste aside, then yeah, it's a good, honest beer, and some nice flavours. It's very drinkable, very enjoyable, and I definitely would recommend it. So yeah, it's 8 out of 10. It's 4%. It's a 500ml bottle. Thanks for watching. Cheers, and bye for now.